بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. كيف حالكم طالباتنا؟ إن شاء الله تكونون بخير وصحة وعافية. أتمنى أنه يعني صحيح هذا الوقت هواية كثير فراغ هواي موجود، حاولوا تستثمروا بشيء ينفع، لأنه الشيء اللي يغلب بهذا الوقت هو الكسل. يعني نحاول دائما ننهزم على أشياء ما بها فائدة. فإن شاء الله تكونون تستفيدون من هذا الوقت إلى أن الله يقسم وتنتهي الأزمة ونلقاكم إن شاء الله على خير بإذن الله. طبعا موضوع الرواية أطفي هذا. موضوع الرواية أنا بلشت ببعض السلايدات أعطيتكم عليها مادة علمية، وأخذنا فد introductions about beginning of the American novel, about Nathaniel Hawthorne, about the schools and movements that flourished at that time. And we started with dark romanticism, as I gave you last time, in which this novel is framed. هذه كلها introductions, we just need to have an idea, because we need to know something about the age, what kind of movements, what kind of ideas flourished at that time. So we just have an idea. You don't need to worry about the exams and these things, because this is not included in the exam. We started with the Scarlet Letter as Hawthorne's masterpiece, for it discusses main issues that concern the society at that time. And as you can see, Hawthorne sets his novel in a religious, let's say, a religious or dichromatic frame. He was too much concerned about the ramifications and influences of Puritanism. You have some slides that explain Puritanism, its concepts and ideas, and you need to keep yourself updated about these ideas, because we're going to be busy with them in analyzing and studying each chapter of the novel. The Scarlet Letter is published in the mid of the 19th century, 1852, and it's supposed to address topics, ideas, concepts that took place 2 centuries earlier. Yani we are talking about 1650 and beyond. Sorry. The novel is divided into 24 chapters with an introduction, which Hawthorne described as the custom house. This is where he where he had occupied a job for a while. The custom house explains some ideas, as you can see here in these brief notes I have written. The roles of this chapter. It might not be that clear, but I will explain. This chapter has a job. It is supposed to outline unautobiographical information about the author. So from this chapter, we know something about who is Hawthorne, his predecessors, Slafa, Mnienjo, Shwakt Waslow, and Shon Asho, his life, his current life at that time. The chapter also describes the conflict between the artistic impulses and the commercial environment at the time of the author. It also defines the romance novel, which Hawthorne later refines and develops and masters. It authenticates the basis of the novel by explaining the origin, where he got the novel from, how this idea has fermented in his mind, and how he came up to write such a novel. He explained that while he was doing his job at the custom house, Beit al-Gumruk or al-Gamarig, he discovered in Salem custom house, Salem city, اسمها Salem. In the custom house of Salem, he found that faded scarlet letter, يعني باهت اللون مالته, and some parchments, تشوفون يعني scriptures أو some handwriting, some handwritten sheets that contained the historical manuscript of the Scarlet Letter as a novel. So Hawthorne has encountered some files, some words where he found something written about a lady who was enforced into a punishment, and she was supposed to wear a scarlet letter. So some brief notes about this idea was available, were available to Hawthorne, from which he developed his novel. هذا what we are concerned about in the custom house, the first chapter, which we are not truly concerned about. Yani we are supposed to study it, but because it is very long, it is somehow complicated, we go through the novel directly and we just have some brief notes about the chapter. We are required to understand these notes because we might be asked what is the content, what is the importance of the chapter. So you need to have an idea about this chapter. If we move to chapter 1, chapter 1, the prison door. I remember I read chapter 1. I highlighted the main points, but we did not go through the topic in detail. And neither we will now, of course, because we cannot spend too much time discussing everything. This is the what we should work on from now on. We need to just highlight the main points in every chapter. We just refer to this is important, this is important, this is important. So we do not spend too much time, because I find it very difficult to upload long videos. I had to wait for 2 days in order to upload a video for the second stage in metaphysical poetry last 2 days. So the novel, you should have an idea about the title itself, why the writer started with this title. We already know that the writer did not like the idea of Puritanism in its current shape. It was good previously, but it has deviated from its own ideas and concepts. That's why it became the subject of criticism for Hawthorne. So he now explains that Puritan people are controlling Boston City, and they are practicing their own authorities, which are wrong. They are doing wrong for the people, and people started to suffer from these from this mistreatment. So he starts the novel with the prison door, the title. As you can see, he describes the people, a group of bearded men, sad-colored garments, gray steeple-crowned hats, intermixed with women, some wearing hoods and others no, assembled in front of a wooden edifice, the door of which was heavily timbered with oak and studded with iron spikes. The writer wanted us to understand that the Puritans are violent, let me say, are not dealing with people in a gentle, simple way, let's say. The first thing they did when they first put their feet on Boston land, they started to build that edifice, because Hawthorne refers to this edifice as very old, as old as Puritans came to Boston. So those people, when they first came in, they built that prison, that huge prison, and they have allocated a part of land, يعني حددوا مكان معين من أرض, and they describe it as a cemetery. So people are punished in the prison, and when they die, they are buried in the cemetery. So these are the first two activities practiced by Puritans when they first came to Boston. So from this point of view, or from these two ideas, we understand that the Puritans are the subject of criticism for Hawthorne. Instead of building, of constructing, or developing resources, lands, growing crops, rearing animals, doing something that is beneficial, that is interesting for people. No, they did something that is related to punishment, violence, and bloodshed. So, this is the introduction of the chapter. We need to understand that this is where the novel begins. This is the setting of the novel. So, when the Scarlet Letter opens, you find that we open our eyes in front of a prison with some people sitting or gathering in front of that place to witness something to happen. Yani there is something um, to happen next chapter. So that place is described in these bad words. As we said, those people were described with negative words. You need to pay attention to these words because they are to be compared later with other positive words, as we will refer to in next chapter. So here the writer describes some plants: pigweed, apple, peron, such as the vegetations, but no one's side of the portal, and the rooted almost the threshold was a wild rose bush. Rose bush, yani a flower, some kind of rose. So we need to contemplate this idea that in front of that miserable, sad scene of the prison and its negative qualities and features and how people are described, there is something that is compared to, let's say, life, hope, something interesting, a rose. How could a rose grow in front of, oh, in front of such a bad a place? So this is a reference to hope that in such bad community, in such bad society, there is still hope from the rose bush. هذا راح نقارنه بعدين ويا one of the characters in the next chapter. So this rose bush, by a strange chance, has been kept alive in history, but whether it had merely survived out of the stern-old wilderness, so long after the fall of the gigantic pines and oaks that originally overshadowed. يعني reference إلى Anne Hutchinson's, a lady who was imprisoned for her religious beliefs, and she was supposed to pass by that rose bush, and هذا كان يعني فد kind of a blessing of that lady who died. فالبلessing مالتها صارت بالمكان وظهرت هذه الروز بوش، يعني some supernatural reference. So this is the gist of the gist of the first chapter. The first chapter furnishes the background, gives us an idea about the location, about the setting of the story, and it shows how Puritan people lived their life when they first came to Boston, to that place. This is what is important in chapter 1. Okay.